You're watching UnrealEntGaming. This is Gohan from Dragon Ball Z. You want to see me turn Super Saiyan? Or should I take it to the next level? I'm also the narrator, too. Next time on Dragon Ball Z, make sure and smash subscribe to UnrealEntGaming.
With Dragon Ball Super manga chapter number 63 now officially in the history books, tension continues to rise as Merus had arrived onto the battlefield to prevent Moro from further destroying our heroes, and with Moro now setting his sights in annihilating Merus, Merus prepares to lay it all on the line in the name of defending everything he believes in. But the question is, how far is Moro willing to go to survive against an hidden angel trainee, and what exactly are our heroes going to be welcome to once they all return back onto the battlefield? As once more before we begin, if you are new to this channel and have a love and passion for all things Dragon Ball and anime related, then make sure to go on ahead and smash that subscribe button and turn on all notifications by clicking on the bell icon to never miss a single upload on this channel, as well as giving this video a big thumbs up by smashing that like button down below if you guys are loving the direction of the Dragon Ball Super manga and cannot wait to see this be animated within the actual anime itself. And if of course you guys want to catch up and check out all the best from the Dragon Ball Super manga, then you guys can go on ahead and check out the official Dragon Ball Super manga playlist located down in the description box below, to where there you guys will be able to find all the latest and best from the actual Dragon Ball Super manga. So if you want to catch up and find out more information on what's been going on, then be sure to go on ahead and check out that playlist located down below. As we kick off Dragon Ball Super manga chapter number 63 entitled Merus' Resolution, as we now make our way back down onto the battlefield with Merus having to further confront Moro, Jocko is absolutely taken back as he went along to shout, "Agent Merus! Where the heck have you been?" With Merus replying, "Apologies, Agent Jocko. I was tied up with other matters," and with Moro looking on in silence, Jocko then went along to respond, "Sorry to be all we're totally doomed just after you finally showed up, but Moro is definitely too much for the Galactic Patrol to handle, so we're totally doomed." And with Merus having to smile, he then went along to respond, "I'm aware. I've only come to finish up some training." With Jocko asking, "Who's training?" Merus responds, "Son Goku's." And that's when Jocko's confused and having to ask, "Huh? Speaking of, where'd everyone go?" And Moro also notices that everyone else had vanished, as the battlefield now is completely void, only leaving Moro, Merus, and Jocko on the field itself. Moro then went along to respond, "You. What are you? And where did you send them?" With Merus replying, "For the moment, somewhere safe and far away from here." And with Moro continuing his serious tone, he then went along to respond, "Do not trifle with me." And that's when he went along ahead to raise his arm up in the air, and with one single swoop, the barrier is now opened, and as it begins to descend, Moro's barrier is completely gone. And because of this, Jocko then went along to ask, "Hang on, can he track people?" With Merus responding, "I'll have to buy some time." And before you know it, Merus dashes on in making the first move towards Moro. As he went along to reach towards his pouch, we only then get to see how Merus pulls out a massive pole and having to strike Moro down with, and with Moro having to defend himself, he then went along to utter, "I sense no life energy in you yet. I did earlier. Was that mere camouflage? Are you some manner of deity?" And with Merus then having to be shown smirking and further having to validate the idea of him having to be of god descent, what Merus winds up quickly doing is taking a leap back, as of course he then went along ahead to spin his staff and being on the offensive. Merus did exactly that, as of course he is then shown having to strike Moro several times. It is only at that point where we get to see how Merus does in fact make further contact by striking Moro, but then with such ferocious speed, what Merus attempts to do is he further attempts to attack back Moro by striking him with the pole, and he's moving at such a pace that it's actually impressive to see how Moro is cognitive enough to move out of the way in avoiding all of these attacks, because from there, what Moro winds up doing is he manages to avoid all of Merus' attacks, and as soon as he makes his way ever so closer towards Merus, Merus actually realizes this, and right before Moro can actually do anything of his own to make further contact on Merus, Moro attempts to throw a wild right hook, and as soon as Merus bends on back in avoiding Moro's punch, Moro then is in complete shock, because from there, Merus further went along ahead to lean back and using that pole as a means of controlling his balance, and from there, he further goes on to extend the pole so much so that it strikes Moro directly in the jaw, and this single strike alone was enough to do so much damage that you can further see the blood having to spew out of Moro's mouth, as of course he's up in the air, and with Jocko having to be absolutely stunned, Moro is just as shocked, because as he went along to fall back, there is a look of concern on his face, because this is the first time that anyone, including Goku, Vegeta, Gohan, the androids, and Piccolo, have actually done anything to make this guy bleed, which is fairly evident and goes as far as to show someone how powerful Merus is even while suppressed, and with Moro's body shown falling back, what he manages to do is create somewhat of a bubble barrier to prevent himself from having to hit the ground, and with Moro then gracefully having to touch back down, Merus is shown having to further stand in fighting position in trying to see what Moro is about to do next, with Moro shown wiping away the blood from his mouth. He quickly followed by looking down on his finger and noticing his own blood, which in a creepy way kind of stimulates Moro in the fact that after he had saw his blood, he went along to then smile very eerily at Merus and having to then comment, "I see, because now he knows," which personally went along to remind me of the exact scene shown in Avengers Infinity War after Iron Man had made Thanos bleed. Thanos went along to reply, "All that for a drop of blood." So this is kind of the same vibe that I'm getting from Moro here, because even after Merus had just busted him open, instead of becoming angry or becoming furious at the idea of this happening, instead, he went along to smile almost as if he's kind of enjoying this. However, Merus on the other hand, he's calm, he's focused, he's serious, and Jocko just simply can't believe what he's looking at, because of course Jocko doesn't know that Merus is in fact an angel trainee, and he's absolutely perplexed at the idea that Merus is doing what Goku, Vegeta, the androids, Gohan, and Piccolo weren't able to do, and that's actually go as far as to hold their own against a Moro now who is much stronger than how he was before. To in which, to Jocko's surprise, he then went along to comment, "Huh? Was Agent Merus always this strong?" But both Merus and Moro are not looking to waste any more time, because they then went along ahead to charge directly at each other, and it's most interesting to see this because they both have a history of having to battle against each other prior, so to see now that Moro is much more well aware of what Merus is in terms of not being a regular mortal, this actually now is beginning to become much more intense than how it was originally intended, as only then we go back to Dende, who in fact is standing over the bodies of our heroes. Goku, Vegeta, Piccolo, Gohan, the androids, they are all literally on the brink of death. Goku still has a massive hole in his chest, Gohan has his teeth knocked out, Vegeta is unconscious, Piccolo has a massive hole through his stomach, the androids are unconscious, and Dende is trying to do everything he can to alleviate the situation until, unbeknownst to everyone, Beerus and Whis finally arrive on Earth. But they don't seem to be too amused by the situation, or at least Beerus isn't, because they both went along to then comment as Whis went along to utter, "I left the Galactic Patrol agent behind," as Beerus asks, "What do I care?" Kind of getting sick of doing favors for these guys. With Whis responding, "They are indeed a handful." As of course Beerus is shown getting agitated, he then went along to continue, "But the God of Earth can save them now, right?" "Yes," Whis responds, and that's when Beerus turns his back and then having to reply, "Okay, time to go." "Where?" Whis asks. "Bulma's place," Beerus utters. "You said we were coming to Earth to eat some delicious stuff. Preserving Earth's gourmet goodies is the only reason I ever saved those idiots." As Whis responds, "Ah, but of course." Off we go then, and as Beerus and Whis take off, Beerus then went along to ask, "Hey, I feel like we're missing someone. Where's Merus?" With Whis responding, "Oh, it seems he got separated from us," because this further confirms that Whis was the one that had originally evacuated everyone, and because of this, he's kind of being a little sneaky with Beerus in having to avoid the fact that Merus is actually on the battlefield and being that same agent, as Whis then continues, "No harm in leaving him behind." With Beerus responding, "Whatever. One less mouth to feed means more for me. And with Dende shown healing Goku, Gohan, although in a very battered state, went along to then ask, Dende, is he gonna live? With Dende responding, Goku's wound is deep, and since his chi itself had reached god level, healing him could take some time. I can heal you too in a moment, Gohan. With Gohan standing back up, he then went along to tell Dende, leave me for last. Take care of Dad, Piccolo, and Vegeta, and that's exactly what Dende does, because Goku is shown having to cough up little droplets of blood as Dende is trying to do everything in his ability to help him, and when he does, Goku finally is able to stand back up, and as he places his hand near his pectoral, we can see the outline of the scar just created. With Goku realizing this, Dende then went along to utter, great! You seem to be healed! Dende! Yes! Where's Moro, he asks. Battling the angel, Dende replies. The angel? You don't mean because Goku knows. As Goku then went along to utter, Merus? As Dende responded, I'm afraid I don't know his name. Goku then went along to ask, darn, what could he be thinking? Any angel who fights for real outside of training is doomed to disappear. And Dende doesn't have a clue on what the heck Goku is talking about, as Goku then went along to tell him, Dende, take care of these guys, okay? And with Dende agreeing, Goku then went along to thank him by commenting, thanks as always, Kami-sama. And as soon as Dende heals Goku, what Goku winds up doing is he doesn't waste any time in having to dash directly towards the battlefield and further confronting both Merus and Moro. And as we then take a look at what both Merus and Moro are up to, Merus is now shown on the defensive, with Moro desperately trying to do anything and everything he could possibly do in order to further get leverage against Merus. And with Merus shown spinning his pole in such a way to where it's deflecting all of Moro's attacks, what Moro follows up by doing is using somewhat of a laser beam like attack from his eyes that's eerily enough borrowed from Piccolo, and as soon as Moro winds up firing this attack, Merus quickly catches on that this attack is headed right for him, and what he ends up doing is he uses the pole in order to stop the oncoming attack, but then Moro quickly dashes on in having to kick the stick away from Merus up in the sky, with of course Merus having to be completely baffled, and what Moro then follows up by doing is he gives Merus a ferocious headbutt to the face, where he's actually shown doing it with a very creepy smile on his face, and you can only imagine what this is going to look like once of course Toei Animation goes on ahead to animate this, which I just cannot wait for. But objectively speaking, it kind of makes sense for Moro to actually be able to put his hands on a very suppressed Merus, because from there, what Moro winds up doing is he blows Merus away by using somewhat of a force-like attack and having to literally push him back far enough to where Moro from there is shown firing multiple energy blasts directly at Merus, and with Merus having to then open one of his eyes and noticing this, what he then follows up by doing is so casually avoid all of Moro's attacks by having to duck, dodge, weave, bop. He did everything he could to make sure that not a single attack actually made contact, and with Moro then charging right back at Merus, it's fairly evident here that Moro is now beginning to become more of the aggressor in this battle, and with Merus having to notice this, he's really not trying to take any chances against someone like him. So what Merus does is he went along ahead to reach on out to the same pole that Moro just kicked away, and I will say, this is such an interesting tactic that he uses against Moro, because he's really not trying to use his hands, he's really not trying to use his feet, but instead, as the pole is then shown having to repel back to Merus, Merus then finally grabs onto the pole in his attempts of using it as a means of defending himself, and he does, because Moro ultimately ends up landing a ferocious punch as of course Merus is trying to brace himself. As of course he is shown holding off, Moro then went along to ask him, are you concealing your true strength? What is the meaning of this? And why rely on a tool? But then, that's when Goku went along to utter Merus' name and touching back down, with Merus having to comment, Goku! And Moro is absolutely surprised, because he then went along to utter him, as Goku yelled at Merus by telling him, you gotta stop! Keep fighting and you're going to vanish! And with Merus having to step on back, he then went along to look at his hands and replying, it would seem I'm still intact for now, but that's when Goku stepped forward and having to tell him, well, fall back. It's my turn to fight. And that's when we get to see, very similar to what went down before, Goku reactivates the power of Ultra Instinct Omen and goes all out by using this power, with Moro having to ask, were you saved by the Namekian's healing abilities? But as soon as Goku hovers on up, he directly winds up charging directly at Moro, and notice Moro's expression here because he's not concerned, he's not worried, he's not scared, but instead, he's eerily calm as of course he then went along to move his eyes. He then quickly noticed how Goku had quickly shifted his focus of direction because instead of attacking from the front, Goku was actually fast enough to move in from behind, and the second before Goku attempted to kick Moro's head off, what Moro winds up doing is so casually tilt his head into the opposite direction in avoiding Goku's attack, which mind you, this is a more focused, much faster, and much stronger Goku than ever before. So with Moro having to further treat Goku like an absolute joke at this point, what Goku winds up doing is he proceeds to spin forward in kicking Moro directly in the chest, but notice how Moro wasn't phased in the least. Bear in mind, this is Goku who has not only recovered, but he's much stronger now than he ever was before, and Moro now is taking everything that Ultra Instinct Omen Goku is doing as if it's an absolute joke. So as soon as Goku lands back on his feet, he charges on in, and quite the unexpected begins to happen because normally enough Ultra Instinct is the power or awareness that one has that allows them to essentially avoid almost any attack they come across, but here we have Ultra Instinct signed Goku continuously throwing shot after shot, and Moro, almost as if he has Ultra Instinct of his own, which of course he doesn't, is dodging everything that Ultra Instinct signed Goku is throwing at him. So that just goes to show the level of superiority that Moro has by comparison to Ultra Instinct signed Goku, which further goes on to illustrate the idea that Moro at this point is just simply too much for Ultra Instinct signed to handle. But this doesn't go unnoticed because Whis then begins to feel out Goku having to use this power, and because of this, he then went along to comment, Goku is having another at it with Sign, with Beerus asking, can he win? As Whis replies, I very much doubt it. But even then, when going back to Moro and Goku, what Moro winds up doing is he so casually punches Goku, mind you, one time that was actually powerful enough to send Goku flying back out into the distance, and because of this, bear in mind, all Moro did was hit Goku one time, and he was capable of knocking him out of Ultra Instinct Omen. So if that's not a testament as to how strong Moro is to so casually be able to punch a recovered Ultra Instinct Omen Goku out of this power, then I don't know what is, because this goes as far as to show that Moro is simply too much even for Goku to handle alone. And with Goku having to be sent flying out, what Merus does is Merus is the one to actually save Goku in preventing him from crashing through the mountains and crashing through the landscape. So once again, Merus comes in clutch, and as soon as Goku winds up coming back down to his hands and knees, he then went along to tell Merus, thanks for that, Merus, and with Moro smirking, he then went along to ask Goku, that form of yours already failed to defeat me once. Did you think this time would be any different? And with Goku standing back up, he then responds, damn it, you spend all that time teaching me Ultra Instinct, and I still can't even get the hang of it. With Merus telling him, not quite, Goku, your training worked. One last push should trigger it. And Goku has no idea what the heck he's talking about because he then went along to ask, a push? Oh, what do you mean? But that's when out of nowhere, unbeknownst to Merus, what Moro winds up doing is using Piccolo's skill set and techniques to extend his arm far enough underground in having to reach back up and grab Merus by the back of the neck. And because of this, Moro immediately assumes that he's going to take everything Merus has, as he then went along to comment, I can't claim to who you are, but copying your abilities should prove useful. But that's when out of nowhere, so casually, what Merus does is he spawns his angel staff and he cuts right through Moro's arm. So it goes as far as to show right then and there that not only did Moro's method of taking his abilities failed, but with one single swoop, Merus was able to completely cut this dude's arm off. And Moro is shocked because he really wasn't expecting for this to happen, and I love how Merus gets into fighting position as of course Moro retracts his arm back into himself as of course he then regrows the part that was just cut off, and there's a moment of tension because it was at that point that Moro realized that Merus now is a much bigger threat than anybody else by comparison to Goku, Vegeta, Gohan, the androids. There's nothing anyone else can do that's going to rival what Merus is doing to Moro right now, and that's where Moro begins to show signs of frustration. He's getting annoyed, he's getting angry, and mind you, The only 3 individuals on the battlefield right now are Jocko, Merus, and Goku, and the only one putting in real work right now is Merus. And with Merus further getting ready, he then went along to tell Moro that copy power is a hassle, so I'll have to seal it. And with Beerus and Whis having to be shown momentarily pausing, Beerus then went along to ask Whis, feels like Merus just started using those angel powers. You sure about all this? With Whis responding, as you know, Lord Beerus, I do not act except under your direct command. And Beerus is getting annoyed because that's when he went along to tell him, you sneaky little... So the Grand Priest is gonna be pissed at me. Let's get back there and stop him. And as we go back to Moro, who is shown dashing right towards Merus, Merus went along to then tell Goku, I was born an angel, meant to maintain a neutral position outside of good and evil. And with Merus caught off guard, what Moro attempted to do was strike Merus directly, as of course his attention was focused directly at Goku, but Merus is so fast and so cognitively aware that he casually leaps on up above Moro. As of course Moro looks up, what Merus winds up doing is using somewhat of an energy bind to force Moro down onto the ground, and because of this, Merus actually was able to once again get the upper hand on Moro. And as Moro is shown having to stare back up, what Merus quickly does is he uses the sharp end of his angel staff, and he quickly then notices how Moro's palms are now open, and in the center of Moro's palms are the little stone-like crystal objects that he uses to basically steal people's abilities with. So with Merus having to primarily keep this as the main focus, he charges on down, and with his staff he uses that as a method to shatter those crystals that are in Moro's palm. And with Moro having to then notice this, he is angry, but at the same time you can clearly see on the right side of his face that he's also now beginning to worry. And right before Moro can actually attempt to claw Merus's eyes out, Merus once again sidesteps out of the way and retreats back with Goku. So once again, Merus had the upper hand, and with Moro having to then stand back up, Merus is once again shown in fighting position, as he further then went along to comment, so even if the universe is ravaged or destroyed, I'm only supposed to sit back and watch. And that's when Moro grabs onto his hand and asking a sealing technique. How could you possibly? And Jocko's still taken back because he went along to ask, an angel? That's what Merus is? Am I hearing this right? As Merus continues, however, throughout my time working alongside the Galactic Patrol, something blossomed inside me. A sense of justice. But this doesn't stop Moro, because Goku quickly noticed how once again Moro is charging directly back at Merus, and what he winds up doing is he attempts to once again inflict as much damage as he could to Merus, with of course Merus having to block off each attack in a very effortless-like style. As Merus then went along to comment, now the Galactic Patrol agents may be the elites of their own homeworlds, but on the universal scale, they're helpless. With Jocko asking, helpless? Merus then continues, many of the criminals willing to violate galactic laws are stronger than those agents. Even so, the agents act in accordance with their convictions and ideals. Valiantly, they struggle to protect the galaxy, as we are only then shown how the Galactic Patrol are actually on their own ship, with the prisoners having to be shown. The Galactic Patrol members then went along to comment, we've collected every convict besides Moro, so we're heading straight to the Galactic Prison. Understood. We will prepare and receive the prisoners, with the others responding, which just leaves Moro. Once these guys are locked up again, we'll head back to help. And as the Galactic Patrol are doing everything they could to come back to Earth, we then go back to Merus and Moro, and Merus is holding off Moro by further having to use this staff, because you can clearly see that Merus is not using his hands, he's not using his feet, but instead he's using weapons. And because of this, he's trying to keep Moro at bay without having to use his physical strength. And because he then positioned his staff in such a way that he then used it as leverage in having to toss Moro back up in the sky, what Moro then follows up by doing is foolishly open up his right palm. As of course Merus then noticed this, what he winds up doing is he specifically positioned his angel staff in such a way that he then used it more or less like a gun, and he shot one singular beam from the end of his staff onto Moro's palm. And because of this, he then went along ahead to shatter the second crystal that was residing on Moro's right hand. So his left hand and his right hand no longer possess these crystals, and with Moro having to be absolutely dumbfounded, Merus then went along to comment, that piece in the galaxy is worth hanging on to. Seeing those agents in action, I came to realize, with Jocko shouting, hey Merus, it looks like you're not all there, with Merus continuing, especially after meeting you and your people, Goku. That strengthened my resolve further, with Goku having to shout, no Merus, what's the plan here? Cut it out, with Merus telling him, this next attack is most likely my last. And with Merus then not holding anything back, he then begins to channel his inner power as his angel halo is now beginning to show. Beerus and Whis actually touch back down, and with Beerus having to observe what the heck is going on, he then went along to shout, Jeez, his body's already see-through? With Whis telling him sadly, it would seem we are too late. With Beerus telling him, you left Merus behind knowing this would happen. And with Whis acting as if he doesn't know what Beerus is talking about, he then went along to ask, who? Me? Not at all. And Beerus is pissed because he then went along to continue, what kind of excuse are we gonna feed the Grand Priest? With Whis telling him, we shall have to think on that, and with Merus shown once again in fighting position, his aura is beginning to glow. He's not looking to waste any more time, as of course Moro was shown having to fly upwards. He then went along to utter, why you? As this is it, because Merus from there begins to charge on up and winding his fist back, Goku then went along to shout, Merus! But there's no stopping him, because from there Goku begins to remember his moment inside the hyperbolic time chamber, with Merus having to tell Goku, you've saved this universe so many times over, Goku. With Goku asking, huh? I guess so. It's not something I think about much. It's just the strongest guys out there tend to be the villains, so with Merus telling him yet, despite their wicked deeds, you prefer not to end their lives. Why is that? With Goku telling him, cause if they rise up to do bad stuff again, I just have to become stronger by then, right? I'll fight him as many times as it takes, and at some point, just maybe, they'll decide to join the good side. With Merus having to comment, reforming villains then. The Galactic Patrol takes the same approach, with Goku telling him, putting it that way just gives me too much credit, man. I just think that's much more exciting, I guess. With Merus asking, exciting you say? You are a fascinating specimen, Goku. And with Moro now beginning to understand that Merus is charging directly at him with full force, what he winds up doing is he raises his right hand and he creates a semi-sized energy ball in which he uses to toss directly at Merus, and the minute Merus is shown having to dash on in, Merus's power, Merus's heart, and Merus's will is what's allowing him to easily overcome Moro's blast, as of course Merus from there is shown having to directly dash right through Moro's energy ball, sort of like it never even happened to begin with, which further goes on to showcase the power of an angel trainee. And with Moro having to see this, he is absolutely shocked because Merus is dashing right at him with full force and Moro is not looking to risk it. So what he winds up doing instead is raising both of his hands up in the air and creating an even bigger energy ball, but from there, right before Moro is actually able to throw this energy ball down at Merus, Merus is shown coming at him in frightening speed, and it was at that point that Moro realized that there's nothing he could physically do that's going to prevent Merus in having to reach him, and when he does, there is a very cool shot with Moro holding up the giant energy blast with his arms extended, and because of this, Merus is also shown clenching his fist and winding back his right hand, and what he ends up doing is he delivers a thunderous, bone-rattling shot to Moro's cranium with such pressure and such power that Moro's body is literally rattled, and because of this, Merus had hit Moro with such force that it then caused the bigger and final crystal on his forehead to completely shatter to pieces, and you can clearly tell that Moro's in pain because his teeth are grinding, his eyes are closed, so he is definitely feeling the force of this punch, and because of this, his body is sent flying out into the distance, literally crashing through everything. So this was the final strike that Merus had delivered right before he then went along to meet his demise, as of course Moro is shown on the floor. He is in agony, his arms are shaking, his eyes are closed because the sheer pressure of this impact was enough to actually inflict that much pain to him, and because of this, Merus is shown huffing and puffing, he's tired, but then he begins to notice that his body is slowly beginning to fade. He's being atomized, he's literally disappearing right before everyone's eyes, and with Jocko and Goku then having to notice this up in the sky, Jocko went along to shout, huh? Slow your roll, Agent Merus! You're vanishing off the face of the earth! And with Goku uttering Merus' name, Merus' final words to Goku are Goku. should you achieve Ultra Instinct at your current strength, it will be far more stable than ever before. You will not fall to Moro, nor to anyone else for that matter. And Jocko is panicking because he went along to shout at Goku, "Hello Goku! Care to fill me in?" As Merus' final words continue, "I've come to love this galaxy, this universe, full of excitement. Please protect it all." As only then, Merus finally vanishes into the wind. And with Jocko having to yell, "He's gone! Merus!" Beerus and Whis then begin to observe, with Beerus asking, "Just gone? Poof?" "Yes," sadly, Whis utters. "Right." Whis then continues, "He was an awkward little brother." And with Goku's back turned and his head looking on down, you can slowly see how there is a mysterious aura that's then beginning to manifest from his body, which we have seen before, and we've been in this position before, and this right now is a Goku that seemingly now is going to have no control, no more emotions having to guard him from having to progress further, because he needed a trigger, as according to Merus, he needed a trigger to reach the status of mastering the powers of Ultra Instinct, as only then the manga chapter special then comes to a close. Now, with Merus now having to make the ultimate sacrifice in laying down his life after knowing that if he were to directly intervene by having to use his angelic powers against Moro, then the ultimate price to pay would be his life having to be taken from him, but this was planned. This was obviously planned by Merus from the start in having to use this as a means to push Goku, which basically now sets the stage for Goku having to momentarily master Ultra Instinct again, kind of similar to how he did during the Tournament of Power. But the question here is, once we get to see Goku use this power again, is he going to fully be able to use this power to finally put Moro down for good, or is Goku simply going to use this power to beat Moro down but not finish the job? And this is where you guys come in, because I want to get your thoughts in the comment section below about 3 specific things. Number 1, do you guys agree with Merus having to lay his life down and sacrifice himself as a means to push Goku? Number 2, do you guys believe that if Goku were to master Ultra Instinct, that Goku is going to finish the job off by himself? And number 3, what do you think is going to happen by the end of this battle involving Moro? Because I find it more than interesting that Beerus and Whis are there, and I think that similar to ROF, I really don't see Beerus and Whis having to be directly involved in this battle unless one of the two, specifically Beerus, were to be further provoked by Moro. And I think that when looking at what went down during the events of this specific manga chapter, it only goes as far as to tell me that even after Goku had recovered by Dende having to heal him, and by Goku having to reactivate the powers of Ultra Instinct, and assumingly having to use its full power against Moro, it's still not going to be enough. So the question here is, what more is it going to take if mastered Ultra Instinct simply can't get the job done? Now, I really enjoyed this manga chapter only because there was an element of desperation and there was an element of unpredictability, because Moro was placed in a position to where it was either do or die against Merus, and Merus had made that sacrifice to actually prove to Goku that you're going to have to dig a bit deeper in order to finish the fight. But the question here is, will Goku do it? So thank you all so much for watching, thank you all so much for your time. The next manga chapter will be available on the channel between September 19th and September 20th in English, and I want to get your objective feedback on this manga chapter. If you guys enjoyed it, if you guys perhaps maybe thought that this was too much of a far-fetched idea for Merus to do this, because he could have easily had killed off Moro if he had chosen to do so and still be erased anyway. Now, the only thing I don't really like about this is the fact that towards the end, Goku has his head bowed down, his fists are clenched, so if he does reactivate the powers and taps into mastered Ultra Instinct, then does that mean that he's going to do it as a means of rage? Because it's the total opposite, right? It's counterintuitive to what the concept of Ultra Instinct was or is in Dragon Ball, for one to clear their mind and to be at the most calmest possible point in their life, completely void of anger and rage to do this. But now it looks like it's the total opposite. So we're gonna have to wait and see how this plays out. There could be other elements included to where even if we do get to see MUI Goku versus Moro with everyone else also having to be healed, we could also see a scenario play out to where they're going to be included, such as Vegeta, Piccolo, the androids, Gohan. So again, thank you all so much for watching, thank you all so much for your time. I hope you guys enjoyed. If you guys did, hit that subscribe button and turn on all notifications to never miss a single update video on the channel, as well as giving this video a big thumbs up by slapping that like button down below if you guys are simply stoked, ready, and excited to see what's about to go down in the upcoming manga chapter, which is Dragon Ball Super Manga chapter number 64. I'm really excited for this only because this could go in one of many directions. MUI could succeed, MUI could fail, Moro could end up killing somebody, Moro could end up escaping, Beerus might get involved, anything can happen. So again, thank you all so much for watching, thank you all so much for your time. Tune back in for more, and I'll be seeing each and every single one of you guys down in the comment section below. Have a great day, everybody, and take care. Peace. And a quick little reminder before you guys go, if you guys are unaware, I do have a second gaming channel located down in the description box below, so be sure to head on over to Unreal Royale and hit that subscribe button along with turning on all notifications, as to there, you guys will find all different kinds of gaming content that you will not get to find on UnrealEntGaming, titles and video games such as Grand Theft Auto, Call of Duty, Gears of War, Dragon Ball Z Dokkan Battle, Dragon Ball Z Legends, Dragon Ball Z Budokai Tenkaichi 3, Minecraft, Blair Witch, and many other retro games on that channel. So if you guys are into gaming, then make sure you guys subscribe over on Unreal Royale. I want to thank you all so much for your time, and I'll catch you all in the next one.
This is the Galactic Emperor of the Universe, and of course I'm here to tell you to subscribe to UnrealEntGaming.
Also follow UnrealEntGaming on these social media platforms to stay connected at all times. And if you don't, then very soon you will all be dead! Oh, did someone say UnrealEntGaming? Oh my god.
The fuck, someone? Put on some clothes!
Well, why don't you put on any clothes?
What? I don't need clothes. Jesus Christ, that's huge! What, Broly?
Frieza. Prepare to die!
UnrealEntGaming, but once you get video, all lots of likes, or Bill will turn you into chocolate!
Vados, get over here! Tell these mortals that I'm the biggest UnrealEntGaming fan. This is my moment. I'm a part of his notification squad. Universe 7 can have all the fun. I just want the food.
And don't forget to leave a comment on this video. Show some love for the best community on YouTube.
Kakarot!